Hello and welcome to your Pisces January 2020 reading. Hi, I'm Nigel Saint James, for those of you who have dropped by for the first time, and for those of you who have subscribed and who come by regularly. Thank you, I appreciate your loyalty, but you know, it gives me great pleasure to provide these readings to you, and the fact that you enjoy them, it makes my day, it really does. Well, let's see what there is in store for you. These cards, incidentally, my daughter found these in a flea market and gave them to me. And I've noticed, of course, in the course of using them, that they have interspersed among the cards the Chinese I Ching hexagrams, also the Scandinavian runes, and the runes often are very earthy Scandinavian, often done in wood. So we shall just infuse the earth spirits into the cards as we have just done. And what we find is that there's also Kabbalistic inscriptions, all of which are extremely interesting and do aid in the divination of what is to occur for you Pisces this January. And this is, of course, for Pisces Sun, Pisces Moon, and Pisces Rising. In fact, if you have a lot of planets in Pisces, this reading will be suitable for you. But anyway, let's get things underway, shall we, and see what there is in store for you this month, the first month of the calendar year of 2020. This looks like it's coming out, whatever it happens to be. There is the Three of Swords. Okay, what's this? The Empress. Well, there's the thing which completely banishes any difficulties which one might ordinarily find with the Swords suit, which can be difficult because the suit of Swords is the product of the union between the suits of Wands and Cups, of fire and water, and so we would expect them to have some degree of instability associated with them. Nothing that is not able to be overcome. There is the Daughter of Stones in the West. Now you see, there it is for you. I think this has jumped out. In fact, two of these things have jumped out. We'll take the first one. That is the Ace of Stones in the West. Very interesting. Now this has jumped out anyway, so let's take it. Okay, it's come out by itself, it hasn't come out in two. So there it is, that's the Fool. Now, why don't we come together, have a look at the art on these cards, and I'll give you the reading as to what's in store for you this month of January. Let me get the vibe. Absolutely fantastic and fantastic set of cards that are coming here. The Fool and this Ace of Discs and a couple of things around it. Look, in summary, they're all saying to me this: there is nothing you cannot be, there is nothing you cannot do, there is nothing you cannot have. You are the most magnificent, the most remarkable, the most splendid being God has ever created. For who could reject such wondrous magnificence? But you do not know who you are, and you think you are a great deal less. You are your own rule maker, and you are the only one who can assess how you are doing. All you see in the world is your idea about it. Life will take off for you when you choose for it to. An idea becomes a thought becomes a word. Say the word out loud. Words have power and they echo throughout all of eternity. A word becomes an action. If you are going to do it, start. Then go all the way. Do it. Do it. Seize it. Rejoice in the opportunities now being presented to you, and let no power on earth take them from you. Okay, let's have a look at this card here. The reason why that message is coming through is because there was obviously something to do with that 3 above us, but let's look first at this thing here. This is the Ace of Discs. Now, this card for me is telling me, well, it is the root of the powers of the earth. And I think what is going to be the case is that people who are maybe a Taurus or a Gemini or an Aries are going to be important to you at this time. The planet Pluto, that long arching planet, is associated with this. Here is an eagle about to land on this stone, the marriage between the female spirit and the male spirit, between the spirit of the divinity and the soul of humanity. The rainbow here, the sky, the earth are gifts which are inherent in nature. Now let's pull out a bit, having seen it. I think what we can say here is that this is talking about inner and outer richness, great success, unification of body and soul for me, of material and spirit, of heaven and earth. There is a sense of wholeness reverberating all around you at this time, the beginning of something tangible, prosperity and growth, material abundance and improving finances. It's possible, I think, that there is afoot maybe a pay rise or a promotion, but certainly there is good luck. And there's a chance that there will be some unexpected money coming your way. You will have a deep well of grounded, practical, organizational ability, and as this is found here in January, I think that this is going to be with you for the whole year ahead. Yeah, fantastic energy, fantastic card. Now let me have a look at this card here, which is this Three of Swords, which has popped into this picture. Here we go. Can you see that? There it is. Now, here we have, well, actually, let me get my pen and show it to you. Here, well, first of all, the number 3 is about extension. It is about expansion. It also has associated with it the planet Saturn in my mystical attribution towards the numerology. And Saturn can sometimes be slow and cold and dense and heavy and bring about restrictions. Here we have 3 swords which are suspended, which seem almost as if they are waiting for something. And here, out of the wall, comes a single drop of water. Pure, beautiful water, which in some ways represents, I think, can be said, the purification that comes through after a period of suffering, although as this is a minor arcana card, minor suffering, I think. Now there is an I Ching hexagram down here, which I'll get to in just a moment. But let me talk first about the astrology of this card. Now, for me, in the card, I have Saturn in the second decan of Libra. You know, that 3rd to the 12th of October. Now, Saturn in ordinary astrology is exalted in Libra, and so we might expect to have really good things. But I also have Saturn in this number 3 here from a numerological point of view. And as I mentioned, Saturn is about restrictions, limits, time, form, and practicality. And the suit of swords is a suit which can have some instability associated with it, because it is the product of the union of the suits of wands and cups, of fire and water. And if you put fire and water together, what do you get? Something that is unstable. Well, I think what we can see here is that we have the situation where the appearance of Saturn is coming in to maybe apply hard lessons on Libra's desire for relationships, and if that's the case, sorrow can sometimes be a byproduct of that, and it's natural. It's a natural event that most people have to go through at some point. Libra is also associated with adjustment and justice. So there is something in about karma around here for me. something very karmic associated with it. I think what we can say is that there may well be past hurts, losses that you are ruminating over, some melancholy, some unhappiness, these types of things. I think these are going to be quite transitory, and they should do. In a way, I think it's almost as if they are about giving you some sort of a lesson. And the reason why I say that is I'm going to look in at this I Ching hexagram. Now, the I Ching is from China, ancient China. In fact, it's the oldest known form of practical magic that we're aware of. It, of course, humanity has been around a lot longer. This is in recorded history that we know of. And humans have been engaging in practical magic for thousands of years. The I Ching works on the basis of saying, well, what is the combination of broken and unbroken lines? Now, here we have broken lines at the bottom here, as you can see, and a broken line is yin, the feminine principle. An unbroken line is yang, the masculine principle. And the I Ching hexagrams are interpreted depending on how the broken and unbroken lines happen to be arranged in connection with each other. Now here we have a yin, a yang, and then 4 yangs on top of it. Okay, well that is the hexagram known in Chinese as Tun, which is about disengaging. Do you know, in the Chinese Tao, or Tao, as you may know it, the idea of not embroiling or of not stoking up the fire, of not creating fuel to the fire is a cornerstone of Taoist philosophy. Now, in your dreams, you see how all symbols and even the characters mirror aspects of yourself that you are examining and either adopting or discarding. Now, there is a hidden influence in this hexagram here, which is about coming to meet, about advancing. Now, because that hidden influence of coming to meet is there, we can see that the situation of this hexagram, which is talking about disengaging or talking about a retreat, can be a heavily charged one. And we can give charge to a situation that pushes our buttons. But this underlying influence of advancing, of coming to meet, always brings you face to face with the transformative opportunity of the shadow side within you. The fact that there is so much charge makes the object of your particular inquiry, when this hexagram comes up, something which is an important one. However, you cannot force your will on the situation at the moment because it is teaching you something. It is better to step back and reflect on what it is that you are learning. Not embroiling, not adding fuel to the fire means not to do just that, not to throw more fuel on the fire. Emotional reactions between people stoke a fire, don't they? And fires can sometimes burn out of control. The underlying cause of advancing shows the opposite of what you need to do, I think, in relation to a particular situation, and you'll know what it is. Now it is a time to retreat or disengage. When you engage an obstacle, you only give it more power. When you give oxygen to a fire, it only causes the flames to burn with more intensity. Now the same holds true for negative thinking, and I'm cognizant that this is in the Suit of Swords, because you give these ideas credibility to the charge that you carry within you. You can actually stalk adversity by looking for it without knowing that you're doing it. And backing down does not mean that you fail, because it can create greater success. If you can step back, perhaps you can discover a win-win solution. Retreat or disengaging, as this hexagram embodies those concepts, that retreat is not a sign of failure, but a well thought out pathway to success. Now, where shall we go? Fascinating, these things, aren't they? I'm going to do this next because it contains a letter here, which I'll refer to in this letter here. Now, where are you? Let's have a good look. You are the Fool. Now here is this card of the Fool. I'll use my pen again. Here we have what looks like a medieval fool, the court jester, and the court jester speaks the truth, doesn't it? No matter what else may be going on with it. This also represents the time, maybe not the time because it's before there is time. It represents the mode of being that we have before we descend into the world of space and matter. And in fact, if you look at this swan here, the swan is wounded, isn't it? And I don't know about you, but I kind of get the feeling that this is an allegory or a metaphor for the descent of the swan by its wound from the Garden of Eden, which I actually see as being a spiritual realm which is beyond that of space and time. And in that Garden of Eden, you might recall that the two people, Eve and Adam, ate of the tree of knowledge between good and evil. And in order to know the difference between good and evil, you need to descend from that spiritual realm and into the realm of matter, where things are occurring which do give rise to good and evil, don't they? Well, let's have a look at this Fool and see what it has to say for you. Very much one who walks without fear, the spirit of the ether. This is associated with the air, and for me, it's associated also with the planet Uranus. Although this glyph down here doesn't seem to suggest that, but for me it does. It's Uranus, which is freedom-loving, kind of rebellious. And, the spiritual path is sometimes a rebellion against normal society and material living, isn't it? This is a state here where this Fool is both father and mother. It's the most abstract form of father and mother. It's androgynous, really, the Fool. It is neither, because it is still in spirit. And in spirit there is neither male nor female, or there is both together at the same time. This is talking about the start of something new and spontaneous, the beginning of a journey into the unknown, which I think is going to be full of potential for you. Oh, I just have a word coming through now, which you are the breath, and this symbol here means breath. I'll come to that. You are the breath caressing my cheek in your incessant going, yet you are with me always. I think that what we see here is that you will have the need to take a leap, not of faith, but with the inner confidence that you are going to be okay. Open up your life and have the faith that you can create what you want, just as this Fool can do so. Look upon your life in the same way that the Fool does. Be empty again, once again, just like a child is. This is about manifesting creativity, moving towards wholeness, reowning your courage, and maybe an attention to your spiritual journey, but the courage to be who you are and to walk without fear. It symbolizes the awareness that exists before birth and after death, and your awareness that these things can be utilized in the present life. such as peak experiences, mystical experiences. Yeah. Let's have a look at these. Now in this case, the runes. Now the runes and this letter. Let's have a look. The runes were technically they're the alphabet of the Vikings, and in the Elder Futhark, which is what these runes come from, they were used between about the year 100 AD and 800 AD before the Christianization of the Scandinavians. But it was said that the god Odin discovered these runes by hanging upside down for 9 days and 9 nights from the Tree of Life, after having pierced himself with a sword and peering into the well of Erd. And the well of Erd then, after 9 days, made the runes perceptible to him. And the runes were not just symbols for human speech, as alphabets are, but they were also windows into the worlds beyond the 3 veils of negative existence. This rune here is Wunjo. It is the rune of joy. It tells of happiness coming into your life. And this rune indicates success. Now, of course, in a rune casting, there are other runes which may come around, but it could, depending on whatever else might there be around, it could mean a pleasant journey coming along your way, I'd say. Or it could also mean that there is a time in your life which is full of peace and contentment. Full of peace and contentment. And there is a gift here, and the gift is that this symbol is that of a shared love. Now there's another interesting symbol in this card of the Fool, and you'll see why I was getting that message about the breath of the divinity. This is an ancient, well, it's not so much ancient, but it's in biblical Hebrew. This is the letter Aleph, the first meaning. It actually has no sound unless it's placed with another letter. So it's sort of it's actually not sounded. So it's almost, if you like, outside of time and space. Now, this is the first letter of that biblical Hebrew alphabet, and it signifies the number 1. Aleph indicates the oneness and unity of the divinity. It hints that beyond the illusion of separation and duality is the underlying oneness, that nothing is separate, and the divinity is the source of everything. Aleph also represents the creation of something from nothing. It is the essential symbol for and of beginnings, and of the ultimate reality that really can't be talked about because we don't have the capacity, we don't have the words or the concepts. It's timeless, it's spaceless, and yet it's present everywhere. It is the one that cannot be divided, representing perfection beyond human conception and comprehension. Now you've got some other great cards here, and let's get into it. Look, I'll use this card because it actually has a reference to that Aleph symbol that I was just talking about. Here you go, get into that. Well, above the eye there, you can see a woman who's naked, who is the empress. And she's holding, above here, I think, is a diamond, which represents the different aspects of humanity. This snake here is common throughout mystical tradition, meaning transformation. There is a staff here with a pine cone on the end. The pine cone also means spiritual transformation. In fact, if you look at the Catholic Pope, he holds a staff very similar to this with a pine cone on it even today. Now here we have a door with like a church symbol on top of it, but there's snakeskin around there. And there is the snakeskin again of transformation, because snakes transform and renew themselves, don't they? The crescent moon, the symbol of Venus, which is very much associated with this. And for me, this doorway is the pathway into which the spirit goes and out of which the spirit comes. Now, the Empress here, I think, is saying that you are likely at this period to have a look at, and because it's above the Fool, I'll draw the thing out a bit. I think in a reading where you have the Fool underneath here, which is quite androgynous, I'll put this like this for the time being. I think that there's a very good chance that you are going to be engaged in acting as a maternal figure for somebody, but because it's sitting above the Fool, it could also be that you are a paternal figure for somebody. Or you may be having interactions between a maternal figure or a paternal figure. And these can also be grandparents. Or they could be people acting as grandparents. You never know. But there's very much that mentoring aspect of it for me. There's very much that people coming to you for advice and people asking you, what should I do? What can I do? And you giving them counsel and giving them advice and saying, look, I think that you want to be doing this. But the advice that you give to them is going to be coming to them from a position of love. I think what we can say here is that, well, I see her as being the daughter of the mighty ones. And Venus, she's married, of course, to the Emperor. There is a chance, I think, that you will hear of pregnancy during this period. You will be in touch with the beauty of your life. And I think you'll have very empathetic and caring personality. And it is to remind you, I think, that spirituality is expressed from the heart and not from the head. Nurturing others and yourself is really what I'm getting from it. It's a predominantly fertile card, this, and really one of the best in the pack. You are about me and through me. Your kisses are all at once in all places. The moist folds of your skin are open and engulfing and devouring the whole of me. Yet I am the gate, and the shaft of your burning and luminous love impales me, and rips me, and feeds me, even as your mouth, your touch, your womb swallows me up. Very service-oriented. I don't think anyone's going to kind of categorize you as being either an intellectual or a nerd, or as a person who is just non-stop emotional. I think you'll be moving towards balancing your emotions. It's a time for you to nurture yourself. I have this thought in mind. I give and receive wisely. I realize that the capacity to receive is equally as powerful as the capacity to give. I value the healing power of beauty, harmony, and love. I am filled with power and beauty. Might just now have a quick look at these things that are here. Now, this rune here, what does that mean? Well, that rune for me is Thurisaz, and it is strongly associated with protection and luck. And it says that these are on your side. I think that this may well be saying that you might want to perhaps seek advice in relation to something. But now is not the time to be too self-assured with things. Kind of keep that balance that's going there. Let's have a look at this figure here. And what does this figure have to say for us? Well, this figure here, this symbol, is the fourth letter of that alphabet, and it's called dalit. It's the word for door or gate. And it indicates the resistance and the state of selflessness and humility needed to pass through a door. Okay? It indicates how to pass through the gates to know one's own mystery of being and return to the power of Aleph, right, which is almost this case of non-being in a material sense, into that spiritual nature, into that realm which is, if you like, one stage up. You can imagine like floors in a building. When you have an elevator, you can be on the ground floor, which is, if you like, the Garden of Eden, and say, let's take the floor to the basement, and that's the material world. And Aleph comes into the material world through the magician. Now, this is saying then, well, what do you do to get back? And it's saying that the one source of all being and creation is what you're looking for. Now, this symbol, interestingly, is in the shape of a bent-over man or a bent-over woman, signifying the humility and receptiveness that you need. It kind of represents the nullification of ego necessary to realize your inherent connection with the divinity. It also is the structure, form, and diligence required to receive. I think that it is the realization that we as humans have nothing of our own, but are entirely dependent on the Creator, and that every breath and movement is given to us from the Creator. Now, the Creator, of course, is neither male nor female, or it is both male and female at the same time. And it's a great tragedy that we have tended to assign a gender characteristic to God, like God the Father and God the Son and all this business, whereas it's not. In other traditions, they understand that aspects of the manifestation of divinity, such as in Hinduism, are male and female, and that's a good case, a good thing to be in. Well, what a fabulous card to finish with for you, and it's this. Here she is, White Buffalo Woman. Well, I recall a reading many years ago about a guy, a spiritual mystic, a medicine man, I suppose, and he died about 1950. He was an American chief. His name was Black Elk, and he spoke of a woman, the origins of whom was supernatural, and who was called White Buffalo Calf Woman. But I'm assuming that this White Buffalo Woman is the same thing. Anyway, the story of it goes like this. Back at the time, there was famine, and a chief at the tribe said to a couple of young braves or warriors, go out and find something. So they went off armed, and in the distance they saw a beautiful young woman. And one of the warriors says, do you know what? I think I might go and take her to be a wife of mine. And the other one said, I don't think that's a good idea at all, because she looks like she's actually a holy woman. Anyway, the first guy went off and he embraced her, whereupon a cloud came down, a white cloud, and obscured them both. Then the white cloud went away, and the woman was left standing, and at her feet was a pile of bones. And the bones, of course, were those of the man. Well, the other brave said, look, that's a problem, and he went to draw his arrow, and the woman, because the braves were from the Lakota tribe. The Lakota tribe is part of the Sioux Nation, and their lands today would be in North and South Dakota in continental United States. And anyway, the woman spoke to him in the Lakota language and said, look, don't do anything. I can look into your heart, and you are pure. Now, what I want you to do is go back to the tribe and prepare a feast for me, because I'm going to come and I'm going to give you a whole lot of spiritual practices. And as Black Elk recalls the story, she also gave them the pipe, which they use in their ceremonies. Now, what's also interesting is that buffalo were considered by the Lakota people to be sacred animals, and they were also able to impart messages from ancestors. Anyway, after the feast and after she gave them all the spiritual practices, the girl transformed herself into a white buffalo, and snorting, she ran off into the distance. with the promise that the Lakota people would rise up again. Now, what's interesting about that is that I think you could have a Taurus around you, or a Gemini, or an Aries, or someone who has an ascendant in someone who's got an ascendance in either of those signs as well. She is the princess of the echoing hills, the rose of the palace of the earth. It's a woman, but these court cards can, of course, be both male and female in gender, but I'll refer to her as a woman for the obvious reason. A woman who is beautiful and strong, pregnant with life, generous, kind, and benevolent. Although the lowest court card, being the young woman, in the lowest deck being in the lowest suit being the suit of stones, she carries with her all the energies of all the other suits, and she kind of transforms them all into a sort of a cosmic reincarnation, thus perpetuating life. She's pregnant with life, and she's pregnant with opportunity. So again, I'm getting that feeling of pregnancy, which is around here, or birth. A lot of renewal and harmony here for you. This is someone who's represented, I think, as following their true will or true purpose in life. So I think this card for you is about getting in touch with that most important aspect of you and protecting it, like the princess does with the buffalo and with the Lakota tribe. As I say, it could well be a physical pregnancy or a birth of ideas. It represents a very productive time after what may well be thought of by you as being a barren stretch. Don't get involved in any conflicts at this time. This is also what the I Ching was saying to us in this card, as you might remember this hexagram was saying. Just hold your time, because victory will come. Don't stoke the fire. This is not a time to be getting into conflict. I think this is particularly good for people who are involved in domestic life, domestic careers, looking after homes, families. Very, very good for that. Do you know, meditate a while in your mind with the picture of this woman. Breathe gently, letting your eyes rest on her eyes. Then close your eyes and feel the quality of newness now entering into your life. I have the affirmation, and it is this, that I am now ready for the new beauty in my life. That's the way it is for you this month. Well, there you go, January 2020. I have to say this, that you were absolutely fantastic during that reading, and I loved doing it for you. I think this is going to be a great year for you, and have a fantastic January. And all I have to say is this, and remember always that you are a legend, and I look forward to seeing you again next month. Until then, bye for now.